All right, we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Element 14's Google Hangout on the Beyond the Phone Wireless Power Challenge. I'm William Polk, the Public Relations and Social Media Manager for Newark Element 14, and I've got a handful of noteworthy folks who are going to be able to discuss this challenge and their individual builds um, at a great detail. First is Christian DeFeo. He's the e-supplier manager for Element 14. He is joining us from the United Kingdom in his evening here on Wednesday. We've also got DJ from Worth Electronics here in the U.S.
Hello.
And if you guys could just give a little wave as I go through, that'd be cool. We've got we should be hopefully joined by no, he's here. Steve Gocher. He's the business development manager of wireless power at Texas Instruments, and we're having a few audio issues with Steve, so he's going to be providing input via the chat function. And then we have a couple of the participants in our wireless power challenge. We've got Eduardo Ruland of Spain.
Hi.
Hi, Eduardo. And Eduardo, I may be giving you some really good and exciting news here, but you may have already heard. You are the grand prize winner for your work on the man overboard transponder, and as the grand prize winner, you are going to receive a MacBook Pro with Retina display.
Thank you very much. I read about it this afternoon, and you should have seen me jumping through my room.
That's great. I wish we would have been able to show that on the Hangout. And finally, we have Mark Beckett, who is joining us from New Zealand. He is the winner of the Community Choice Award, and his prize is a Google Nexus 7. And Mark will be demonstrating his build momentarily as well. And it looks like Mark just rejoined after having dropped off. But hi, Mark.
Hi.
All right, so at this point, I'd like to just sort of turn it over to Christian, who can describe the challenge in a little bit more detail, the purpose of the challenge, and some of the technology that was involved. So, Christian, if you don't mind, take it away.
Sure. This is the second wireless power that we've challenge that we've done on Element 14. And I remember the first time when we did a wireless power challenge, which was in 2012. Wireless power was something new. It was something that was something old and it was something new because obviously Nikola Tesla had demonstrated the principle of wireless power transmission a long time ago. But it's only become recently that it's become practical and something that is becoming embedded in people's homes and embedded into their office places and so on. And so when we did the first challenge, it was quite an experimental challenge. We move on to 2014, and wireless power has become much more accepted. There are over 40 mobile phones that incorporate wireless power technologies. And speaking as somebody who has a phone that doesn't incorporate wireless power technologies, boy, I wish it did, because it would be a lot more convenient than having to reach under the table and plug things in. But it's at the same time, wireless power also seems to be suffering from a slight image or perception issue, whereby people think, it first appeared in mobile phones, so it has something to do with mobile phones, tablets, and other devices of that type. But we believe at Element 14 that wireless power is going to be permeating throughout our lives. It's going to make an appearance in a number of different fields. And one of the things that we wanted to illustrate with this challenge, and this is the reason why it was entitled Beyond the Phone, was to show how widespread wireless power was going to be. And the applications that Mark and Eduardo came up with are very good examples of this. Eduardo found a particularly useful example in terms of people being lost at sea and having that ability to transmit that information without risk of the solution shorting out. Mark, with his E-list application and the pump that lights up, those are also other applications that we can find for wireless power. It's not just phones. And I think that one of the things that Eduardo and Mark have done very successfully, along with their other competitors, is illustrate how far, how wide this technology is going to reach. And I'd like to congratulate them both because they've shown particularly successful examples of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, Christian. At this point, I wanted to give the floor to Eduardo to speak a little bit more about his project. Obviously, Christian alluded to it just now, but Eduardo, are you able to elaborate a little bit, talk about what your intent was, what the outcome was, any sort of challenges you faced, or things that you found to be particularly neat or interesting about your build and the process of creating it? Or, yeah, your project?
Yeah, sure. So the first idea for this man overboard device came to me when I was sailing one night with my boat, and I thought, if I now fall overboard, who is gonna save me? In the night, no one can see me, and it's quite frequent that people die in that situation. So I started to look for similar devices, and there were not many of them, and all of them lacked certain functionalities. So I started with a friend of mine to tinker a little bit, buy some components, put them together, and after a while we really started to work on a device that could have this functionality. And one of our major issues was, how is it going to be charged? Is it just one use battery, or with batteries, terminals? How is the power management to be done? And wireless power came to our minds quite quickly back then, and I started researching about it, read through the data sheets, but I didn't really took the step to buy the development kit and start working on it. And when I then saw the road test, I thought this is the perfect opportunity for me. I signed up and started with it. I tried during the road test to show the process, how I got from not really knowing the technology and only having a rough idea about how it works, to how I'm going to implement it in a final product. So I first started testing it. I made some graphs with the efficiency and really got in touch with it. Afterwards, I made the whole electrical design, which was mostly copying all the schematics, laying the board out, and then thinking about the fabrication process, which was also quite a challenge with the small components on board. And finally I assembled it all and started testing, because first units never work on the first try. And I quite regret that I wasn't able to really implement the wireless charging kit with a battery in my device and show it to the community, because at the end I did not make a marine waterproofing equipment, but more only showed the process of getting to the board and how to develop it. But hopefully in some time you can see it somewhere on the market. Yeah, and I think that's most about it. Maybe with more detailed questions, I can go into some other topics.
Well, I have a question. How, based upon, I mean, you obviously got to a certain point with it. How far away would you estimate that you are from actually having a working prototype?
Well, that's a hard question. I mean, I've been working on it for almost 8 months or so with a friend of mine, but he recently finished his master's degree, and he got a job in a company as a developer. So now I'm alone on this, and I don't know if it's really worth putting all my effort into this only project. So we have some prototypes that work. They linked it together. It's a wireless mesh that it's constantly monitoring the sailors, and this works, but it's still quite big. I can even show you the first case we made. so big. This is not practical, but and it has an antenna and it's not waterproof. So, but well, it's a proof of concept, and we are that far. But from here, it's a long way to really shrinking the size, getting ready to production, debugging it because it works, but sometimes it doesn't. So it's hard to say.
I think, speaking on I don't want to speak too much on behalf of the partners, but certainly on behalf of Element 14, we would love to see you do this, because one of the things that was compelling is that there is a definite potential for it to save lives.
Yes, I certainly think so, because there are similar devices that are now starting to appear on the market, but they all lack certain functionalities, or they have features that are not useful, and the price range is also a very important point, because if people have to spend $1,000 on an equipment they hope they are never going to use, they're not going to buy it if they are not professional sailors and they know they are exposed to the risk daily. But we also hope to get the price a little bit further down and make it just another accessory for your boat.
That's great. DJ or Mark or Steve, do you guys have any specific questions for Eduardo?
I don't have a specific question, but I can sympathise where he's at. That's the amount of time that you need in order to get the prototype into a more, working unit, and then still look at monetarisation. It's certainly got potential. I think it's a great idea, and all of the right things are there. You do need to get the price down such that people consider that it's worth buying. We have the same problem in New Zealand with the EPIRBs and the emergency locator beacons. Is that unless you've actually been in the situation, or you've lost a loved one or something like that, people don't consider that that investment is worthwhile. So yeah, you're quite right, is that once you get the price down, it becomes a have-to-have item rather than a luxury item. And yeah, your size is quite right. How you can deal with that is probably at production time. There's obviously a lot of techniques in the production field where obviously that's not your expertise, but I think it would be quite good if someone was able to assist in that manner.
Yep.
Well, Mark, I guess sticking with you, unless there are any other specific questions for Eduardo, why don't you talk a little bit about some of the applications that you were able to develop in the builds of yours?
Okay. First of all, this wireless beyond the phone, it did, as Christian pointed out, appear to be just a phone application, and it wasn't until Don Burke and I were having some candid conversations with Simon from Worth that we started really thinking about some of the other uses for it and other practical parts. So you have to blame Simon for me joining, really, because without those conversations I don't think I would have picked this up and run with it. So hence the real desire to get the beer tap going, which I'll show in a minute, because being German, Simon did express a great desire for beer, and I happened to have a contact, so we managed to make something happen. But anyway, one of the things I started with my one was that, yes, okay, charging the phone was great, but there were some other uses, and it suddenly struck me that going to the supermarket and taking the piece of paper with the notes on it and so on and so forth was okay, but it needed some improvement, and this was an ideal way of doing it. There's 3 of us in our family that at any time can be called to go and get the shopping, so having the ability to add to the list while they were perhaps out, or just before they went, or while you went to the supermarket and forgot something, was another thing. So having it accessible via the web to update this list was one of the ideas I had. So that in its saying and in itself was fine. The next part was the hardware, and the first part I looked at was one of the e-paper readers. An e-badger was a classic start. That soon proved to be too small to be any practical use and too slow. Now, they were using that for economy of battery and so on and so forth. So I tried to get some larger displays and they weren't available, so hence a sideways shift to using a Kobo reader, which is, I don't know if I can hold it up. So that was the thing, adding a wireless to the back of it because it's still under warranty, and it's a relatively easy add-on was the next part of that. So that was fine. The hardest part I had from the challenge from my point of view was trying to do the software. Obviously the Kobo, you can't add Java and all sorts of other stuff to it, so whatever you did on the web server end had to be done within the constraints, and I used PHP and some HTML and really struggled. I'm not a software programmer by nature, so that was the first part, and obviously that consumed a fair amount of time. So in the end it worked. In the end we got it to work, so perseverance pays off, but I can tell you that a few other things got put to the side while we were doing it.
All right, so tell us a bit more about the beer tap then.
I was just going to ask about it.
If I can swing the camera around, then we can have a look. And just before I came here, the magnet that I usually use to operate it and make it change colours suddenly disappeared, and I have no idea where that's gone. So I'm imagining one of the cats has got it. Okay, so a long while ago, New Zealand did some wireless technology for lighting the Littleton Road Tunnel, the markers in the middle of the road tunnel. And it's a technology that was built by the Auckland University and I believe is licensed now and used elsewhere. They basically, obviously you can't make connections in the road and so on and so forth, so they run a cable down and inductively coupled to power it. At about the same time, they were looking at using that technology to illuminate the signs on a beer tap. And I'd heard about it, I'd never seen it. So anyway, I happen to know the local beer representative who lives down the road, and I look after her father's ski field electronics. So it's kind of a bit of a, hey, I need this. Can you do whatever you can do to find it? And she was able to manage to find a genuine beer tap for me. So I wanted originally to use the EL film to overcome the issues of diffusion and so on and so forth, but they just were not bright enough. The chargers were the inverters were too power hungry, and in the end I decided to go with the NeoPixel style arrangement. And if I can manage to share the screen here, I'll show you the picture of what's inside the little disc. Start share screen, that should be it. So in here, obviously the NeoPixels are in the center. This is an early shot before it was all put together. Sorry? So the battery, there's a battery in there. There's a lithium charger type device. Sorry, you're just seeing what?
We're just seeing your illustration, that's all.
Okay, so, sorry. Oh, sorry. Okay, there's a bit of a delay in this. The broadband at our end is not very broad. So inside there, obviously, there's a NeoPixel, a battery, a charger, water charger to make sure we don't catch fire. There's a DigiSpark, which is basically the driver to drive the NeoPixels, and obviously the wireless charger at the back. Now it's an early shot of that one. Worth have been very kind and sent me some small coils to replace the coil in there, and I used the Adafruit unit which had the Texas Instrument chips in it, so I did bother going to at a time in order to produce a whole board as Eduardo did, so we did the best we can. So in there is basically that. There's a Hall effect switch. You can put a magnet on, which is going walkabouts, as I said, and change the color. Once you choose the color you want, you can leave it in that color. So unfortunately, the beer doesn't flow out of the tap. That's something I'm going to have to talk to the rep for. And yeah, these are genuine tap. They come with a chiller pipe up the middle of them, so you normally see them, they're completely covered in ice, which, as I understand, Christian, is not something you have in England. You don't have chilled beer.
Well, my beer is chilled, so... But then again, I stick it in the fridge. It depends on the beer. I'm sure we would find a use for it.
Mark, we had a question from Steve from TI. He was asking what the Hall effect sensor was for.
Okay, Steve, the Hall effect switch is for doing the color change on the light. Basically, when that's operated, the DigiSpark, well, it's basically an Arduino, really goes into the color change mode, and it goes through the rainbow colors and does its thing. There's a video that I dumped on for the wireless. Unfortunately, the way the camera responds is it's had to be in darkness, so it's not the best shot that we have. I also did want to use it for waking it up, but unfortunately with the DigiSpark I couldn't get into that, and the other AT Tiny 85 just did not seem to want to work. I don't know what it did, but anyway, so that's what the Hall effect's for.
I have a question that's probably for both you, Mark, and Eduardo. You mentioned, Mark, that you were talking before the challenge began with Don about what the potential uses of wireless power could be. How have your perceptions changed from the beginning of the challenge until now?
Well, one of the things that's been quite interesting out of this is I help out a group called Future in Tech, and the idea of Future in Tech is that they increase the uptake of technologies at a tertiary level. So that's at tertiary sciences, sorry, in technology. We do the electronics. We do a Christmas tree teaching them soldering and electronics. And I've been asked to help with a group at one school who are assisting the elderly with technology. They're currently making a device which I can't really comment about at the moment to help the elderly, and in amongst that was this item was going to be battery powered and obviously semi-sealed up. So I don't know about you, but having got older, you need reading glasses, and anytime you want to plug your phone in, you have to try and find your glasses before you can find which way the socket goes in the phone. And it struck me then that they also had a range where they should be looking at doing wireless charging on most of these devices that the elderly have. The Kobo here is a good example of being able to add a wireless charge to it so that you don't have to try and find the tiny little hole to stick the charger in. They obviously have phones as well that can be added to it, and there's obviously other devices they have. So having done this challenge, I can now see some other uses for it, and as much as, you know, I'm not picking on the elderly, they're a good target because you can just drop it on top of something and it charges up. You don't have to worry about fiddling it. You don't have to worry about getting the wrong charger, which, you know, makes their life a lot easier.
Well, from my perspective, what I have seen is that wireless power is really useful. I mean, you can almost power any device with it, but it currently has a limitation that it's only 5 watts. And I think there are a lot of other uses for it, but where you need more power. And it's always linked with the need of a battery. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me to have a wireless power if you don't have a battery where you can save this power to then move the device from the charger, because that's your interest in having it wireless. But I really was surprised how well and how easy it was to implement it. I really hope that we can see it in more and more devices, not only phones, but everyday little lamps or radio equipment or everywhere.
Thanks, Eduardo. Um, does anyone else have any questions for either Eduardo or Mark?
I have kind of a question for our supplier partners. Is this the sort of thing you intended with with wireless power for these type of applications to be used? I mean, obviously we're seeing a broad divergence of applications. We're seeing Eduardo's man overboard sensor to Mark's beer tap to the E-list. What was, when you are developing these products, was this the sort of thing that you were hoping that would arise out of it?
Why don't we go to DJ first?
The thing is that like definitely those type of applications, what Eduardo and Mark just brought it up, and this open eyes that what can be done. But definitely, if you see the market right now, that's just not cell phone. Like a lot of talks are going on about the furnitures, like how we can use the wireless there, wireless application there, furnitures like a Yuko. Like I heard in Russia, they are having in the airport, they're having those stuff there, like have a wireless charging. Starbucks in Boston, like that is a good examples there. But definitely, like how to get a sealed, like a sealed equipments which can be useful for medical industrial application is a big market which can be a big for everyone to grow with. So we can say that this wireless, like wireless technology is an emerging market. It's not to the level yet that we can do a lot of things as because we have some limitations about this, how far we can go. Plus, a lot of different specifications are going on, A4WP, WPC, PMA. So the main point I think moving forward will be how all can work together, because for the person who are going to be using this type of designs, you want to make sure that they can be easily operable. Like if I want to use USB, it can be used by everyone. So those type of things will be an important key to grow this wireless business, that this war of specifications to be over and everybody works on the same thing. I think that's a take on my side on wireless.
Thanks, DJ. I'll read on behalf of Steve, who, based on some previous discussion, he was saying that more power will come for sure. The Wireless Power Consortium is working on 15 watt for consumer and 2,000 watt for kitchen equipment. And then, Christian, to answer your question, he says, I'm excited about wireless power. Obviously, cell phones can drive the initial volume, but the applications as a power supply alternative will be huge. And then, Mark, I see a question from you in our chat asking, is radiation going to be a concern to people? I guess that's for our supplier partners on the Hangout.
Yes,
Yeah,
from our side. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, DJ, go.
No, go ahead.
The radiation one is a question. There's been a lot of concern in New Zealand regarding cell phone radiation, etc., etc., etc. I was lucky enough to work in the telecoms industry in the early days, and microwave was considered to be the only thing that was a problem. It wasn't until the British, I believe it was the British police, started having issues with kidney failure around the 400 megahertz range that suddenly a few other people decided that maybe microwave wasn't the only one. So one of the concerns with this larger wireless thing is number one is the amount of radiation that's going around. Are we going to see a consumer resistance against it for those reasons?
If I remember correctly, power only transmits, there's not just power that transmits, there's also a little bit of data. So only power transmits when it says, are you a wireless power device? And then on the other side it says, yes, I am. And then the power transmits. And if I remember correctly, the power transmission, particularly for the Qi standard, only happens in a certain alignment and over a particularly limited space. Steve, DJ, you correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
That is correct. But and as Steve mentioned also, like that this is right now like talking about loosely coupled resonant, and A4P are the new one which like coming off directions free, like so you can go in different directions. But there's still a lot of work going to have those things in place like that.
Yeah, and that's what I understand. The close coupled isn't a great problem. It's the wider one that they're looking at, because as much as it's wireless charging is rather useful, you still are limited to the fact that you've got to place it in this particular area and charge it. So there are some limitations. I can see the industry or the consumers wanting to be, oh, I would like to just put it on the desk. I don't really want to have to put it on the edge of the desk or in this particular spot. So yes, it's the loosely coupled charging that I see is where the radiation part is going to be increased. The other one is that I have seen somewhere, and I'm not quite sure how much theatrics was involved, was the ability to charge multiple devices at the same time. Obviously, with this technology we have now, it's basically a one-on-one device, if you like. I can see an advantage in having more than one item being charged in the one area. Is that something that we're going to see as we progress, do you think?
Yes. Yes, we're gonna have a more like a end of the day. We just don't want to start charge phones only. We want to charge our tablets and other things too. So maybe our remote for our car or something like that. So definitely this is coming, and definitely this is gonna happen. Yes.
Okay. The one that
Go ahead, Mark.
sorry, William. One of the ones that springs out of here is a vehicle that is used very infrequently. It's an older classic car. The ability to charge the battery on that this is one of the areas that admittedly it has to be 12 volts. These is an area I've seen touted for it, but I think there is almost a market for a small type charger that can be retrofitted to some of these vehicles, so they don't need to be unplugged. You can just drive it off and not have all the wires out of the wall as you back out of the garage. There is some other areas I think that we haven't tapped on yet, and as it becomes more mainstream and more away from just the phone, like Christian pointed out, some other people are going to go, oh, well, we could use it for this and we could use it for that.
I'm not 100% sure if this is the Qi standard, but I read recently that there is a bus in South Korea, or at least a system envisaged for buses in South Korea that uses wireless charging. And you want to know where the charging is? It's in the silent policeman. As it goes over the bumps, the wireless charging passes up through the batteries in the buses. I don't know if that's on the Qi system, but that was the article that I read.
Wow.
We have electric buses in New Zealand. It's kind of pioneered a lot of the work on them. Unfortunately, they weren't quite telling you all of the story, but most of the time they were running on the engine to charge it, so they were pretty much just a big diesel electric motor. There's no way that they could actually get enough storage into the battery systems to run these things without having to run the generator all the time. And I guess battery technology will catch up eventually, but at some stage you've got to put energy in to get it out again. And the other thing that concerns me a little bit about a move all the way to wireless is the amount of energy that we lose each time we do one of these things. These close couple ones are very good, but you're still talking about 85 to 90%, so you're still losing 10% of your energy somewhere along the line.
I suppose that leads to a question for supplier colleagues, is what's being done to increase the efficiency? I mean, I see, Steve, you're saying that WPC is working on a resonant version of the spec that enables multi-device charging. Oh, and apparently the buses in South Korea are a proprietary system. Oh, well, sorry, not Qi. But in any case, what work is the WPC doing to increase efficiency of the standard? Or can the efficiency be increased? DJ, is that something that you can comment on?
Okay, so from our supplier point of view, for a lot of energy has been because it's depend on coupling. how good is the coupling is, right? So, and coupling depend on like what type of wire you use, what type of ferrite you use. So as a Wirth Electronics, what we are doing is we are trying to use Litz wire, which can improve the efficiency because your Q factor is very high, and use the ferrite material to the up the mark so that you have high permeability material, which can help to improve the efficiency. So that's one of the things we are doing on our side to improve the efficiency. Plus, also we are putting a lot of efforts in looking for different type of different ferrite materials, which can help to increase the permeability and enhance to help the efficiency higher. So those type of efforts has been placed on our side and reduce the TR at the same time.
Thanks, DJ. Steve says that efficiency will get higher as power levels get higher. As technology has developed, new chips and efficiency, excuse me, as technology has developed, new chips, efficiency will get better. He says the Texas Instruments 5-watt solution is about 75% efficient today, and the new 10-watt system that releases soon has 84% efficiency.
Just to give you an example, like right now we start working on this. We are getting out this. This is like a coil, and it's a round coil, and it's using the pot core. So you can, I'm not sure you can see it or not. It has like a small pot core. So it has some wide, like some wall around it. So what does that mean? So by having this type of construction, we are able to reduce the stray magnetic field out of it. So the losses will go down. So that type of things we are putting efforts to get different type of ferrite shapes, which can help to reduce the losses.
Any other questions for the supplier partners or the participants in the challenge?
I'd just like to say thank you to both of them for making it happen. Without it, obviously, we wouldn't be here. But it's opened up quite some interesting possibilities, and certainly opened up the use and thinking about the technology. So I noticed that there were quite a lot of views on our blogs, various blogs. So obviously there's been a lot of people looking at it, and I think that as we go on, and especially if Eduardo's able to get his project into a much more, shall we say, production line, it's certainly going to wake a lot of people up to the fact that there are some abilities to use, capabilities of this technology. So thank you both to Wirth, who have been extremely generous in sending out extra coils and so on for my other project, and for Texas Instruments for their kit and all of the stuff that they've done. So thanks, guys.
Looks like Steve says thanks to everyone for their involvement in this competition. Very exciting. And just to close off on the previous topic, he says the other important factor with efficiency is not just wasted power, but the ability to get power out of a system. In small receivers like phones, there's a limit to how much power you can dissipate. So, but yeah, like Mark was saying, a big thank you to both Wirth and Texas Instruments. Obviously, a huge thank you goes to Eduardo and Mark for their time and effort and persistence and creative thinking with this project. For those who are interested, you can read Mark and Eduardo's blog entries and learn more about their projects and the other competitors in the challenge at element14.com. And with that, unless anyone has anything else, I think we will sign off.
Just before we sign off, congratulations, Eduardo, on winning you the final challenge. It's well deserved, I think. And yeah, it's been quite interesting that and quite opening of people's eyes, and that excuse me, that the design might be there, but the implementation sometimes has a few road bumps in the way, and you as you said, the first prototype is always the hardest. So congratulations, and also thank you to Element 14 for the generosity in this and all of the effort they've done. I know Christian's been working hard behind the scenes to make most of the road tests work, so thank you both, guys.
Our pleasure. No problem at all.
Yes, I was also very surprised by the quality of the other participants who did not make it to this final positive result. But I saw a lot of good content there. It was always interesting to read it, and I really enjoyed the 3 months of work. Some week was a little bit stressful trying to get everything on, but it was always a nice feeling when on Friday I could post the news and read the updates from the other teams.
Great. Thanks for that, Eduardo. All right. Well, unless anybody has anything else, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for everyone who is watching the Hangout. And have good evenings or mornings or afternoons, depending on where you are located in the world.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.